Yo, what's poppin'? How we doing? How it going? Shit. How we doing, bro? How we fucking doing? So, today, I'm deciding to make this video. I already tried making one today, but it ended up being more just like trying to fucking talk through my emotions and like, yeah, it's like therapy, but yeah. Oh, yeah, today I'm trying to make a video on how to reconnect with spirit if you feel disconnected. Because I feel super disconnected. And I feel like I should probably like make a kind of a frame or like a template for myself next time I go through something like this, coming from my face, because I know myself be like that. It gets really distrusting when it gets flared up. When it gets flared up, it doesn't listen to like anybody. It doesn't believe anybody. Like anyone that I used to use like as a trusted source of information. So like people on YouTube, people on, well, pretty much just like yeah, BTS and stuff at home, and like Alok, and like yeah, yeah, trusted sources of information for how to deal with my problems and how to heal and how to cope in healthy ways and things like that. Hey, my ego, when it gets into those types of states, doesn't like trust anything at all. But I know my ego has the fairest shot at trusting me. If it's gonna trust anybody, it has the fairest shot at trusting me. So I wanted to make some kind of permanent encapsulation, or kind of a little, like, it's like a fucking those activity books with the fucking dots that you connect. Yeah, and I'm also trying to finna fucking string my fucking chakra beads back together because they keep getting yanked all the way the fuck around and fucking chucked all over the place and like, cha. So yeah, dude. Yeah. And that's what I'm finna do. So, I don't know how helpful this is gonna be for anybody else. I hope it is. I hope I can make some kind of like useful, yeah, something useful for something besides just me. But if it's only useful for me, that works too. But yeah. So yeah, ways to reconnect with spirit if you feel super disconnected and you're trying to get connected to yourself again, to the self again, without like flying monkeys and without like, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, fucking chuck. Here's what I understand. Here are some of the things that I have learned along the way in my 24 years that have proved helpful in the past. So, yeah, hopefully somebody can get anything out of this. 3 minutes, 25 seconds. Haven't even started. So, love y'all. Okay, yeah. So, here's some ways we can do that. The best way for me that I found is Kundalini yoga. It's the best way. Well, for me anyway. For this particular problem, it's been like the best way of handling it. And so, if I'm going to talk about Kundalini yoga a bit, we can also talk about theory too. Fucking method isn't gonna be, but yeah. Okay, so spirit. What is this thing that we're trying to reconnect to, huh? Well, back in ancient India, and in current India still, in Eastern tradition. I was looking for a little book there. Yeah, in Eastern tradition, the self, as it's called, or Brahman, or spirit, or like some people use the term the one, like, yeah. So, And I'm like reassuring myself here because it's like when I say shit like that, it makes me feel like, oh god, like that sounds so narcissistic. But this is something that I have experienced personally firsthand to be kind of like the case. Like I've had some experiences that have shown me like how this is the case. Like how the point that we all have inside of our heads, even if it gets fucking moved around and shit, dude, which I don't want. I'm trying to stay in my head and I'm trying to fucking, yeah. And yeah, that one awareness point that we all are born with inside of our head, every living thing, in fact, this is why all things are equal, okay? This is what creates the idea of unalienable human rights, the divine spark, whatever you want to say. It is that point inside of the head, is that point from which it all emerges and goes back to in the phenomenon known as breath, right? And that phenomenon known as breath, the whole universe is essentially a fractalization of that breath, that shape. It's a pattern, which is kind of like this. It goes positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. Or like neurons in our brain. Like how do neurons in our brain work? They constantly fire signals, rapidly oscillating between on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. That's what they do. That's visible spirit, along with breath. I mean, it's visible everywhere. And because all things are spirit. And that awareness point in your head is known as the self, or Brahman, like I was saying. And so, if you're trying to connect with the divine, or trying to connect with God, or trying to connect with yourself, or trying to connect with, no matter who you are, no matter who's watching, yourself. No matter who you are, you're one self, individual. Because like I said, it all comes back to one. And it's true for all of our perspectives. It's an aspect of duality. It's like a paradox which gets reconciled by the existence of spirit. So like it abides by one of the 7 laws and shit. But yeah. It essentially forms like the shape of an octahedron, kind of. And there's multiple different orders of magnitude. Like at first, like from the personal first-hand experience of it, first of all, a way to find that, say you're looking just for that at first, like you don't know where your awareness is, and you're trying to become aware. What are techniques to become aware? So techniques to become aware, say we're in a situation like the one I'm in right now, where there's not much sensory stimulus of any kind. There's not really any sounds. There's lights above me. I guess I can feel the sensations of like sitting on the ground, and I can vaguely feel air on my skin, but it's not moving at all because there's no open doors, there's no fans. Yeah, there's not much sensory stimulus going on right now. It's almost like an isolation chamber, which sounds good to me. But and devoid of sensory stimulus, it can be tricky to pinpoint where it all comes back to sometimes. But there's multiple techniques, okay? So like listening for me is the easiest one, for me personally. So like if I can find a sound and I basically just notice, where is that sound being perceived at? Like what is the part of me, it's not even a part of you, that's the you, like the one you, like yeah, that's the you. And sometimes it gets stuffed down, but yeah. When we think of you, when we're talking to somebody and we say you, we say you, it's the part that we're referring to in the person that is the you, or the self. Like, yeah, when we say your body. If I'm talking from a personal standpoint, from my experience, and I'm talking about my body, who's the owner of that body? If I'm the body, how is there something that owns the body? which I'm the body too, but like there's an owner for each one of us. You have a body, you have a life, you have senses, you have a name. There's a thing, a point at which all of these things are like there's something inside each one of us, and it's really hard to describe the self. It's neti, it's not this, not that. But yeah, it's really hard. But yeah, there's a point in which the things that we know about each, like if I'm just speaking about me, myself, like when I think my life, when I think my body, when I think my ears, when I think my eyes, there is a being that dwells within me. There's a being that observes, feels, whatever you want to say, like is conscious of these things. And it is that consciousness that refers to things like each one of us, our bodies, as my body. It is that consciousness that refers to our life as my life. And I'm kind of, I'm getting like kind of penetrated by some fucking flying monkeys right now, so excuse like any like, I'm trying not to do ego defenses, and I'm trying not to like defend and explain and personalize, because they kind of say provocative things through my face that make me feel self-conscious, and I start getting defensive. And I'm sorry about that. But yeah, dude. But yeah, so one of the easiest ways that I have found to pinpoint that perceptual center from which all things emerge, the most sacred part of the mind. Sound works really well for me. So if I do something like, yeah, seems to work pretty quickly. Like it. Sound is a great way to do it. You just follow the trace. Like follow you have to not follow the trace, but trace a direction from whatever the external stimulus is. So like for me, it's that fridge over there. That fridge over there is making kind of little low hums. Like, it's kind of blowing air a little bit too. And so, yeah. And if I close my eyes, become aware of that sound and follow it inward as deep as it goes. Before you know it, damn, that got set pretty down and deep, man. I'm in my fucking womb right now. Okay. You'll find that point. And once you find that point, yeah, I was realizing that I was getting kind of stepped on. Like, there's some ways in which, I think there's better ways to conceptualize the self than what I said before. So, there is, as I understand it, please correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody knows, like, something that I haven't found out yet. Like, I'd love to find out shit about this, so, like, okay, yeah, please feel free to share, but, yeah, so, there's this thing called multidimensional reality that we all are living simultaneously in. And in multidimensional reality, which it manifests in many ways, but the way that I have found easiest to conceptualize it, and the ways that I've heard beings that are super interested in in moving these things around, they kind of refer to it like this as well. So I think of the first dimension as correlating to ankles, second, knees, third, root, fourth, sacral, fifth, plexus, sixth, heart, seven, root, stop it, seven, throat, eight, third eye, 9, crown, and 10, bindu visarga. And each one of these correlates to a dimension, which a dimension is essentially just a way of perceiving the self. So it's a cut of duality. It's the cut of duality that you're looking through. And you can take many perspectives of this depending on which, like, I have found that each chakra kind of seems to be the home of each dimensional perspective. So like, if you're trying to look through one, you essentially swap your current perception with the perception that dwells within your angles. And that puts you into one. And the mechanism of this occurs through what I call the elevator along the spine. It's like an elevator. And if you go into the elevator and like, you could like, yeah, go up. It makes sense. Like these are the floors. These are the floors of the elevator. And with a dimension, like I said, it's just a dimension means cut. It means cut. A cut of reality. And essentially, when we're talking from a spiritual perspective, what dimension is, when we say like the fourth dimension and like the fifth dimension and shit, when we say shit like that, essentially what those are, they're not realms and they're not like other places. It is all 10 of them are occurring simultaneously wherever you, the viewer, are at here right now. Wherever you are the viewer at, wherever that is, all 10 of the dimensions, well 9, all 9 of the dimensions, because 10 is just one again, but with the information of the previous 9 contained within it, like having gone through it, it's like a spiral. Yep, so wherever you, the viewer, are at right now, no matter what's happening, each one of us, all the time, constantly, simultaneously, are perceiving reality through all 9 dimensions at once. All of us. And it's only a certain level of awareness that allows you to become aware of that. Like, it's not power. It's not like some special, like, yeah, anybody can become aware of 9-dimensional reality simultaneously. Anybody. Indeed. So fucking don't feel so like yeah. Okay, yeah. And essentially yeah. And essentially how that is done is, so say you want to look through 1-dimensional reality. Oh dude, like I'm getting so fucking, I just realized, like, yeah, I'm getting shifted around so fucking much. Like, I'm talking about multi-dimensional reality. I was talking about just ways to reconnect with spirit, bro. It's got me talking about, like, okay. So yeah. What I guess essentially what I was getting at, like, what we said before was, we were, like, talking about the sound, which is emanating from the fridge, is why I'm gesturing over here. Sound that we can use to follow that one point. And once you find that one point, that point is not the be-all, end-all of spirit, of like the self. In fact, there is one layer behind. There's a layer behind that which contains that spark. And that spark, the spark is the first dimension. However, there's a 0th dimension. There's a dimension that lies behind that, which we call the void. And the void is, it's like the cosmic womb. It's like, yeah, that's essentially what the symbol's getting at. Not just the unity beneath the complexity, which is a beautiful part of it, but essentially what the Brahman is, which, again, any conceptualization, anytime you put it into duality, it's going to be a fractalization of the self. It's going to be put into conception. And so it's not going to be the thing itself. It's going to be a sign for the thing itself, for the thing itself. So don't get it confused. Don't get it confused, and don't take my word for it. Investigate. Get your personal first-hand experience of this shit. Don't just take my word for it. Don't just believe what I say. Go find out. But yeah, and that void in the back, behind the spark. So wherever your perceptual awareness is, there's something behind that. In each one of us, there's something behind that, and that something that is behind that has no personal traits about it whatsoever. It has no quality. It has no way of describing it that would like actually encapsulate what it is. Which is why it's called neti neti. Not this, not that. However, the best, if I were to try, the best word I could use to describe that self is void. Like a cosmic womb, like a cosmic sea. of potential from which all things emerge. And to find that void, once you find your perceptual center, what you have to do in order to get there, at least what I found, is if you close your eyes, trace your senses to find that point. What you essentially do, if you look at your, like the vector of your attention, typically for us, it goes outward. So we're looking out at the outside world, perceiving a sense, something like that. And what you do is you flip it around. You flip it. So you take the vector going in this direction and you flip it inside going like that. So it's going directly in. And you're not sending any of your attention onto your outsides anymore. Instead, you're bearing it all into your being, into that void. And into that void, there's many ways to like imagine this if you're having some trouble finding this. There's many ways to imagine this. So, first of all, I need to get my perception back in my head because those motherfucking... Yeah. And there was this one description that Matthias used that I really liked because it's been working really reliably for me whenever I'm like too separated from myself. Which, if we're always going in this direction, like always trying to move on and run away and get away and all this, it'll create a division between you and this true self, this void that is behind the spark. And so if you take that vector of attention, flip it on the inside, bear it into that. But I like to imagine, if I'm sitting down, I like to imagine another me sitting back to back with me. This me is like, it's like all black. It's like a character that hasn't been unlocked yet in a video game. Because it's netty, we never can, you know? Yeah, and I think of it as a character that hasn't been unlocked in a video game. And so like a silhouette, essentially. Or like it's like 3D looking, but it's like, yeah, it's like a devoid of, like, it's like if me, this person, like, just went into a, like I don't know, it was like a black hole. I got condensed to a singularity, but somehow this, like, the space that my body was occupying was still left unfilled, and there was just like black void left. Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah, I essentially imagine it like that, directly behind me, going back to back with me, and like going, like, the backs of our heads touching. And that self is always with you, and that self is essentially like your best friend. That self has always been guiding you, it's always been with you, it's always been trying to get you to, yeah. And so, if any of y'all are feeling alone, if any of y'all are feeling like, you know, you ain't got nobody to talk to, or you ain't got no support, or anything like that, that self is always with you. That self is always, you can imagine it sitting back to back with you, like, yeah, that void. And that self is essentially like that. If y'all believe in something like this, like, that self is God. And that self is always essentially trying to get you to unionize with it. Because frequently in life we become disconnected from that self. Frequently in life. Especially if we start to get these ideas of, like, who we are as something separate from it. Tends to do it very quickly. And like, the more you identify with separateness, the more you invest in ego, the further away from that self, which is just void, the further away from that self you find yourself. And there's multiple, like, yeah. So just some more, I guess, like techniques to become connected to this self. Once you find and imagine that self, like I said, sitting directly behind you back to back, as just a sea of void, kind of the womb in which the entire portrait of your reality gets painted upon by the light of spirit, which is that point. And it's being reflected by the moon of the soul, which creates the phenomenon of sensory input. Okay? And that self, what I like to imagine, there's kind of this like little vent at the top of your neck for spirit, and there's also one directly behind your nose, and there's like, the atlas is what I call it, and I forget what the one that's directly behind the nose is called, but it's like, it's like literally like a little like vent, and if you follow that vent, you'll realize that like it doesn't go to your lungs. Like, it's really bizarre. Like, it seems to be a port, and as you breathe, as you respire, spirit, as you do that, you can follow the air that you breathe, the prana of it. You can feel it venting in past those holes, but it's not going to your lungs. Where is it going? It's going into that void. It's going into that void, and it's unionizing breath, the outside world or whatever, with that self. And that's why that vent exists. And these vents, there's one in the back of the head. Like I said, this is the main one, the garage door or whatever. I just realized, this is the vent that we use if we have our boundaries up and the garage door closed. And if you're comfortable, or if you're ready to, whatever it may be, you can drop the door in the back of the head, which with a lot of ego, essentially how ego manifests on a physical level is stress. And the more stress that you have, the more your neck will get wrenched, and the more your spine will tense up, and it all kind of, it literally manifests like ego. You can think of the sacral chakra or the plexus as like the origin, like where the myself is. You know what I mean? Like how we have the self, and then the self, which refers to it's myself. Yeah. The myself, if we're stressed out about something, or if we're in our pain body, or if we're in our ego about something, what it does is it like sends up the closer for the garage door. Like where the actual door is, it's like when you slide the door down, when you open it, it retracts down back into the sacral or the plexus, like whatever caused it to become closed. And it becomes locked shut with like these threads of attachment. I just realized, with these threads of attachment that all like take place along the back of the head. And Kundalini yoga is specifically kind of, it's all about being able to open that door again. Because oftentimes when we go through life, like, we can become so stressed for so long and become so attached to our individual lives that those threads, and there's like one bar, like if you're completely locked in your ego, there's like literally, it's like a jail bar that will raise up. It's like smaller than the axis. Like, I imagine the axis in 3D, it's about like I don't know, like 3/4 of an inch. About 3/4 of an inch in diameter. And this bar would be like, I don't know, like 1/8 of an inch. Something like that. It's like, yeah. And it'll literally slide up from that same origin as where the door comes from. So like the sacral, the plexus, whatever part of you is experiencing the stress of the ego or the trauma, whatever it may be. And it'll slide up your neck, and it will literally like close, like at the top of the, like, I don't know, maybe I'll fucking show this, like right here. I have no idea if this is coming across on camera, but it'll go up here, and like, and when that happens, it feels like you're in spiritual prison, straight up. And and that happens if you have your boundaries all the way up, like if you're not open in a conversation, for example. Like, yeah, that's your body sealing all the way up. Yeah. However, the unfortunate part about that, well, what I was realizing is when that door is closed, it's the vent behind the nose that allows spirit to still, like, yeah, when the door is closed, like, yeah, because that's the main one. That's the main connector to the rest of the self. And if you're inside your body, like if you take your consciousness and put your boundaries up, and you're all up inside your body, that's the vent that spirit uses when it's stuck inside. Pretty darn sure, man. But yeah, and it's also it's fascinating. I've noticed, like, just side note, like if you're experiencing some kind of narcissistic abuse, which I'm not saying is happening right now, but anytime it has in my past, I've noticed that there's like this phenomenon with each mental dig. If you're really like if you haven't been broken down that much yet, like one of the initial steps that they take is like they'll send these types of mental digs at you, and these mental digs will essentially manifest. It's almost like little snot balls straight the fuck out. And this is like victims of narcissistic abuse like get shit like pneumonia and stuff all the time. Like it's not, like it is not, but and like those digs will manifest as like little snot balls that go into that vent, the vent behind the nose, and it blocks your connection with spirit. And if you're scared because you're undergoing narcissistic abuse, you're gonna have your boundaries up, and so it's gonna essentially completely lock you away from the self. I'm realizing this, and what it does is, like those little snot balls, it will end up pushing your perspective down, so that other things can come inside. Which, if you ever see somebody who's gone under narcissistic abuse, it looks like they have a fucking dip right in their face, right here. It looks like they have a dip. And that's because, that dip is because of those little snot balls going into that vent and pushing their face straight down into their stomach, where it gets fed essentially through an umbilical cord to the disher outer of the narcissistic abuse. Straight up. At least this is what I've experienced. I don't know how true this is, but yeah, it's my perspective. By the way, that umbilical cord that I'm talking about, that is leading out of the sacral chakra, that's what we call a trauma bond. That's what we call a trauma bond. Yeah, and and so ways to unlock that door in the back, I found, like, turn your head side to side, and you kind of imagine like all of your awareness like going, because when you get spaced out, like it kind of spirals all away from you, and like and as you gather your consciousness, gather yourself, you can bring it to the back of your head, like become aware of the back of your head, feel it, and you can feel your spine, and you can kind of like go along each thread as you feel it, like every way it's attached. And just like if you were clenching your fist and you let it go, like you can clench and release, clench and release. You know what I mean? In that same way, you can go to the back of your head, find those threads, and if you can become aware of them, you'll notice that you're the one that's holding it shut, and you can simply let go. And sometimes we can get so stuck up on our insides or so spaced out to the point where you can't find the wherewithal to be able to do that. I've been in that state many times, just in the last month, many times. And I found, for me anyway, it was for me, when I was first starting my Kundalini yoga, like when my soul first like started getting me into it and shit, when once Whistle first started getting me into it, my door had been so sealed shut over the years that like I had to like essentially wrench my neck, going like, and like, yeah, for like 8 hours straight, multiple nights in a row, in order to be able to open that door. Like, yeah, there's a lot of stress. Like, yeah, I had gone through this like so many fucking times, like, yeah, like for my entire life. And so my boundaries were like locked. Like I was closed off to the world, straight up. I was completely shut off to the world. And I didn't even know. I didn't even know that door could be opened. I didn't even know that it could be opened for most of my life. And yeah, and once you open that door in the back, the atlas, and the back of your head get all soft and shit, what that essentially allows you to do, like I said, if you flip your awareness on your insides, pay attention to your insides, and you pay attention to the back of your head, it requires also something called emotional detachment from your ego, called vairagya, which I've mentioned a lot. And if you can become emotionally detached to your ego, that's essentially the very first thread of the atlas opening. It's like a little, and you can feel it. You can feel it get kind of soft when you do that. And breathing gets easier too, because it's going all the way through. And essentially, in order to connect to spirit, the way is minimizing any separation between you, the observer, and anything you can observe. Like minimizing what separates you from that, which we call non-duality. And in non-duality, there's no difference between you, your environment, other people, other living things, the whole universe. It's all one thing. It's all the one self. It doesn't mean it's all in one spot, but it's all one organism, one being, which is the being in the phrase human being. It's the being. And we're all that. We're all that. And the way to get reconnected to it is to, like I said, minimize the barriers or boundaries between you and that self, which is all around you and all within, and yeah. And when you flip your attention on your inside and open that door, you can kind of imagine yourself, like the self that's on the inside that allows you to feel your insides. You essentially pull it out the back. You can imagine like I like to do well, my soul showed me this. Yeah. And yeah, I gotta claim it. It's like you do like this, and you can imagine like fire coming through your arms and shit. And you like rocket yourself the fuck back out. Yeah. Yeah. And I found that works pretty well too. And if you can get all of you that's on the inside and on your skin to let go and to come out through that back, what essentially happens is your consciousness will naturally begin to make this shape like this, called torus. And that torus allows you to, this is what we say when we're saying like psychedelic or mind expanding, soul expanding, consciousness expanding, anything like that. This is what it's like. This is exactly what it's fucking talking about. It is literally that spark, or if that spark is expanded to feel your whole body, the consciousness inside of you expanding out to become everything. Yeah, to unionize with itself. And when you have it on the outside, it requires you letting go completely of every way in which you control your body. Any way you deliberately control your body, any way you choose to control your body, you have to let go. And send it out the back. And then what happens? You have to have faith. This is what my soul always tells me. When you let go of yourself, and when you let yourself fly out the back, and when you release, you don't know if it's gonna ever come back to you. You don't know. Maybe it'll just veer off and fly away somewhere. Maybe. You never do know, but you have to have faith that it will come back to you. This is where this idea of if you love something, you let it go. That's where that idea comes from. And so if you want to deeply connect to spirit, you have to let go of your life and let go of you. And let go of outcome and anything like that. And what happens is, once the torus is made, like once you allow yourself to expand into its full shape of the torus, it will bring the consciousness in through your crown, which is where you can get things like downloads from the divine or, shit like that. That's how it gets inside. That's why I call it downloading. Like, yeah, and it goes like this, where it goes to the seed. If it's an apple shape, which the apple has this information inside of it, it's learned this. The tree that makes apples has learned this about the self. It has become aware of this. And so it has the information unlocked to be able to form that shape. And in that shape, you always find a seed right in the middle of the axis. And that seed is the little flame in the heart, as it's referred to in the Upanishads. The little flame in the heart, smaller than a mustard seed, which we refer to as the true self. The true self. And I know I've said this in a couple different ways. As I expand my consciousness, I find better ways to describe this, but yeah. And when you're dwelling in your true self, there is no, it's like your focus. Like whatever focused consciousness, you, the individual, whatever that was, once it's expanded, it's like this becomes your new center. Instead of that point in your head. The point in your head becomes the torus. And once the torus is up, the true self can be felt, which is found in the corner, or in the middle of the heart. It's a little tiny flame. And that little flame in the heart is God. That's Shiva, that's cosmic consciousness, whatever you want to say. And it can only be truly felt when it is not controlled. When it is not being forced to do anything via self-will. When you completely let go, that's when you can find the truest self. Which there is no one true individual self. There's no one true individual self. But I just lost my train of thought. There is no individual self. This isn't me, bro. Yeah, there is no individual self, but this is the true point from which Om first oscillated. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I just realized when we say we sink into our heart, like let go and sink into our heart, instead of being stuck in your head, instead of being stuck up all in your head, when you let go and expand it to the torus, it puts it into your heart, and you become anchored in your heart, and you become anchored in consciousness. I guess. I'm still learning the guy. And this is just what I've understood so far. I don't know absolute truth. But And once you can connect with that self, and you can allow yourself to expand your consciousness into the shape of that torus, essentially, life becomes significantly lighter, easier, richer, fuller, deeper. It becomes way better. It becomes way better when you can detach and let go and just be. Take solace in being that torus of consciousness in which everything you're aware of is contained, and not trying to be any one part of it. It's understanding all of it as you, and you don't need to claim or hold any of it. It doesn't. If you're detached emotionally, you just allow Om to oscillate, because that's what it does constantly. And if you try and stop Om from oscillating, from change from happening, if you try and stop it, then you're fighting against nature, you're fighting against spirit, you're fighting against consciousness, you're fighting against the way of things, and it's like our back in the mud. And that's when we get bogged down and stuck, and that's when we lose our way and shit, essentially. And yeah, these are ways that I have found. Ooh, what's going on? Oh, it's literally, it feels like I got a fucking IV in my arm. It's like, I don't know if that was like a mosquito, I don't know if y'all can see that. Somewhere along the way, something went on my, like, literally right in that spot. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But, and also I opened my boundaries, so I've been getting, like, picked clean, but fucking, yeah. These are some ways that I have found to reconnect with the self. And try and, I guess, remember, I'm talking to me now, try and remember that it is that awareness of things happening that is what you fundamentally are. The void, think of it like space. Space contains things, but space isn't something that you can like put in a cup and hold. You can't scoop out of it a space and like, you know what I mean? Consciousness is like that, kind of. You are the thing in which all of what you perceive is held in. You're not any one part of it. You're not the mind. You're not the heart. You're not the throat. You're not any of them separately. You're all of it at once. And it doesn't just stop at whatever you're currently aware of. Like, when we fully expand, which is death, this is why it's called, like, taking off an old tight shoe. You completely release your spirit, and you become one with everything. Like, it's not like you disappear. You become everything again. It is what you are. And it feels better than anything. It's like orgasmic bliss, straight up. Orgasmic bliss. It's the opposite of a bad thing. And so there's nothing to be afraid of. Whenever death does happen to come, we never know. We never can know. Whenever it does, yeah, it's nothing to be afraid of. It's like the ultimate meditation. Okay. Yeah, and pretty much. That's why, like, with ego death, like, yeah, that's why ego death is so kick-ass, because, like, yeah. Yeah. It's like a mini version of that. It's like, if death is, like, you could think of birth as, if birth is the Big Bang, or if birth is an exhale, an inhale, I guess. Exhale, yeah. So if birth is an inhale, you getting put into your body, and death is release. Fuck, I forgot what I was gonna say. Shit. I was on to something. It's not important then. Must not be important then. So yeah, okay, namaste. Hopefully anybody got something out of this. Hopefully I was able to spread some wisdom, and hopefully any of it was understandable. And I know it was kind of all over the place, and there were some contradicting statements for sure, but I tried, man. I did my best, keys. Dude. Yeah. And to myself, do your best to continue connecting to spirit. Do your best to continue to aim up, and to, remember that you are consciousness and you are everything. And don't limit yourself. And you're always more than what you already understand yourself to be. Always. And that's true for each one of us. You're always more than what you understand yourself to be. You're always more than what you think you are. So don't ever tell yourself, don't do this because you're this. You can't try that, you're a loser, or some shit like that. Don't make that song, it's gonna be bad. You're always more than what you think you are. Always. Because what you actually are is the whole universe. And that's what this symbol's all about. Oh yeah, okay, I already, I just realized what I was gonna talk about before, it don't matter. Hey, love y'all, namaste, wherever y'all at right now, whatever's going on in your life, be blessed, Remember that all things are one and that you're never alone. You're never alone. All things are connected. All things are one. And it's made out of love. Spirit's pretty much made out of love. Yeah. Something just jumped in my head. Yeah, spirit is indeed. Like, that's what love is. Love is creation. That's why, yeah. Okay, yeah. Namaste, y'all. Yeah. Namaste, y'all. Peace.